everybody, it's me, Laura, and today we're going to be working on cake tip jewelry. And I know you're like, what? Yes, we're going to have some fun, guys, and I mean some real fun. We are going to alternate, or I should say alter, cake tips to work with our Sculpey clay gun. So right here, I'm bringing in a Dremel metal disc. So this disc will cut metal. All right, so I'm placing this into my Dremel and I'm going to just tighten down this collet and everything so that it'll work. Once I have that in, I'm going to take my cake tip and I'm going to use a needle nose plier to hold the cake tip, okay? Because if I try to hold it by hand, I just burn my hand, okay? There is a little bit of heat involved here when you go to cut this thing, but it's so well worth it to make this thing work in my Sculpey clay gun. So right here, all I'm doing is I'm cutting through just about, I want to say it's less than 1/4 of an inch to cut off the bottom. And part of this is going to be where you're going to be looking at this thing to see, okay, does that going to fit into my clay gun? And it will fit, it will work. But when you're doing this, be very careful because yes, this is a drill. Yes, it is very sharp. I also suggest going ahead and ventilating as best you can. So if you can open up your window wherever you're doing this with, or putting this, I have a sandblasting box, so I'm actually cutting this in that box. It would be a good idea. Maybe even putting over a respirator mask or just some kind of mask over your face to make sure that you're going to be safe. So right here, I'm bringing in the components, and if you guys need to, go back and check my Sculpey gun clay solution, clay gun solution, and that shows you how I put together this particular unit. I don't have my O-ring right here with me. That's why that washer keeps falling off all the time. Anyways, I'm taking that cake tip and I'm putting it right into the clay gun. It fits. It actually fits. Now, I will say that when I had to alter it, it doesn't tighten down all the way. It tightens down some, and it's just enough so that you could put clay into here and squeeze the clay out through the cake tip. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, is this thing going to be able to handle the pressure? Well, so far, it has done really well for me. I've really had no problem. Mind you, I am using Sculpey Original White, so this stuff is, it moves pretty nicely. But I did also use some peach or orange clay, and you'll see that in a little bit, using these cake tips, and I really had no problem. I would just say, just to be on the safe side, condition your clay well, and this way then you'll have no problem. Now from right here, what I did was I started pushing out clay through the cake tip, and I was fairly well balanced on my tile. I didn't have any clay underneath it. It was just a solid piece. Now when I did this though, I thought, okay, fine, but it was, I was doing that one-handed. I really wanted to try and do it two-handed, but the problem was right here, you could tell clay doesn't want to necessarily go down on the tile. Sometimes it doesn't stick real great. So to help this along, and you'll see this as I go on, I rolled out like a sheet of clay on a number 4 setting on my Atlas pasta machine. And right here you could tell too, I used this, I want to say it was shelf liner. I thought maybe that might help it. I still had the same problem. That tile still wanted to move on me a little bit. So yeah, and it just doesn't working really great. So your best bet really is, have a piece of clay down ahead of time and then place the design or the cake tip of whatever you're working with on that piece of clay. All right, so from here on, I'm going to go ahead and play with this cake tip a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk or I should say watch the gun talk as it moves along and does some different designs. And yes, right here, I'm also using some of that orange and peach clay just so I wanted to get a different idea what it would look like in color. So here are some patterns or results that I got just playing with this one cake tip. You can tell there are so many patterns you can come up with. But let's go ahead and move on and let's see what else we can do. Okay, so one of the set of cake tips I really loved was the leaf cake tips. And I had two of them. One was a number 352 and a number 67. I got this at my local craft store and I just thought we're just going to play with it. And I loved it. Oh my goodness. It was probably my favorite tip. It was the one I just couldn't quite get away from. And it was just because the tips themselves, you know, the two of them, they were similar but not. And they both, one was more ruffly and the other one was more of like this palm thing, like what I'm getting here. And I really loved just what it could do. I really think that when you use this with polymer clay, there are possibilities here that, oh my goodness, have not really even been tapped into yet. And right here is a great example. I mean, when you look at this, I took that little piece of clay and I turned it into a small, tiny Zentangle just using this one cake tip, this one leaf cake tip that I could just have fun with. Add in a few little balls, add in the knitting needles to make the indents, and you could place this into a picture format. Now, I will say as I'm going through this that I am not experienced with cake decorating. In fact, to tell you the truth, I struggled with this video, and a lot of it was because this is a skill set I have not developed. So if you've decorated cakes at all and you're really good with cake tips, oh my goodness. You guys, you can just call upon that skill set that you've developed already and have fun with it in polymer clay doing it this way. Go ahead, and I know you're probably saying, oh, I don't want to destroy those cake tips. And, you know, I understand. I totally get it. So just go buy some other cake tips just for clay and use them here. So this is my other leaf cake tip that I'm using in polymer clay, and it was different from the other one because the other one kind of was out in a V. This one, the V kind of indented in, like you could tell on that tip, and I really got a lot of ruffling from this, and the ruffling was so cool. Depended upon how you actually placed the cake tip also against your surface, whether it was on edge like I have here, or whether it was more flat. So it really depended on how you used it. And for those who know cake decorating, you probably know much more than I do. So have some fun with it, and I think you're going to discover that you could take that love of cake decorating right into polymer clay. All right, so here I'm going to go ahead and I'm using a petal tip, a cake petal tip, to create some different forms in polymer clay, and it was very different from the leaf type. It had its own kind of look, if you will. I don't know. I mean, I really think when you go through these cake tips, you're just going to have to experiment and see what you can get. But from here, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys watch my hands talk once more as I play with this particular cake tip. All right, so here are some more examples or patterns that I got using my leaf and the petaled cake tips. So enjoy this a little bit, but let's take these patterns now and see if we can't turn it into something more jewelry-like. Okay, so we're going to start creating our first set of jewelry, and in this case I decided to try it out with one of the star tips. And I just thought, let's go with this simple, like almost like three petaled, or whatever you would call it right here. And I really liked it. And it was simple. It wasn't terribly hard to make. You know, mind you, my tile kept moving around all the time. You know, I'm thinking maybe I should put some tape down or something to keep that tile in place. But I went ahead and I made this, and this is going to be for a set of earrings right here. And then I also made another little piece right here, and I thought that will be the pendant piece. So I'm cutting it off flush, and what I'm going to do is I brought in some circle cutters, actually one circle cutter, and then one kind of like teardrop type cutter. And I thought, go ahead and make it where it's a little bit of a circle. And then as we move on here, you're going to see me use some rhinestone jewelry pieces to help complete up these particular, or I should say this set of earrings and pendant. All right, so with this particular set of earrings and pendant, I decided I was going to go ahead and use some of my paint. So I'm using a white acrylic paint here, and part of this was due to the fact that, you know, I left the clay in the oven just a little bit too long and it turned color where I didn't like it. So I thought, fine, we're going to go ahead and bring in some paint. And really, as you look at this here, I mean, the clay had discolored. So it's a great call to go ahead and use my metallic paints here. I also then brought in my jewelry findings and put that in here and then boxed it up. Now that I have most all of my painting done, I'm going to go ahead and add in my little pointed back rhinestones to the little indented areas that I had done earlier with my knitting needle. And this just adds a little bit more flash and a little bit more fun to this particular set. Okay, so my second set of jewelry, I really decided to use kind of a little bit of a Zentangling thing. So really, I'm just placing down leaf type pieces, and I'm using my leaf tip here. And I'm gonna cover this whole little piece of clay with this leaf tip type of creation, right? And using the clay. When I get that done, I'm gonna go ahead and take some oval cutters and cut out just the areas that I like the best for a pair of earrings and a pendant. Now, out of the really the 3 sets that I'm going to be showing you here, to me this was the easiest. and a lot of this because, you know, I'm a novice at, you know, using the clay, you know, the cake tips. I really am. I'm like, I'm doing the best I can with this thing. I mean, you know. Anyway, the thing is that I already had in mind, if I did it this way, I really can't go wrong, and I really can't mess it up, because I'm just, whatever pattern I get is what I get. And I could take then my cookie cutters, my oval cutters, and cut out the forms, and there you have it. You don't really have to try and match up how the thing looks, because it already has, you know, that oval cutter piece that's going to be one earring, and then the other one will be the other earring. And you can pick and choose where you want to go ahead and cut it to. Okay, so again, we're going to go ahead, and I'm bringing in just some, you know, extra jewelry I had laying around. I thought this would be a nice way to kind of offset it. I thought they match up well. It was kind of in a gold kind of metal, and, you know, with the rhinestones. And I thought this should look pretty good. It ties in. I'll put a couple of balls to kind of cover over the little tiny holes there, and then just indent it, and that way I can go ahead and put another rhinestone in on the earring pieces I've got that I'm working on here. Okay, now that I got the jewelry pieces into the clay, along with the indents in the balls, I'm going to start placing in my rhinestones, and this has been baked now. This has already been baked. I've put my jewelry findings into it for my earrings, and really when I look at, you know, really the sets that I made, 1, 2, and 3, this is my, I really like this one the best. I think it was because, I don't know, it just looked really nice to me. And it was really the easiest one to do. The first one, I think it was just the paint I had fun with, but it's painting. And sometimes it doesn't always look as clean as I want it to look. Whereas with this was a white, it was a beautiful off-white kind of look. And the gold jewelry type piece that was in it, I just loved it. It looked so nice. Okay, so now we're on to our third and final set of jewelry, and this one is really based on the pod kind of thing. And what I did was I created a little teardrop form, and then I flattened it down. I'm using my tissue blade there, just kind of form up a nice point. And then I decided that I loved that cake tip where it would give me the leaf type thing. And I had to do some more of it because it created such wonderful ruffles. And right here you could tell, look at that. Oh my goodness, I love doing the little ruffling with that particular tip. You know, when you set it on its edge, it would just do this thing. And I thought, oh my goodness, I am going to have a blast. So I took some of this and I decided, let's go ahead and use that on some teardrop forms. All right, so now we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to let you guys watch my hands talk once more as I bring in some more rhinestone pieces and really finish up this third set of jewelry. So this is the results of doing my cake tip jewelry in polymer clay. Please use this for study and reference. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I'm always wondering what you're thinking. Otherwise, I am sending out my biggest hugs to each of you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.